We're all in business for a reason. The problem that so many small business owners have is that they go in 10 million different directions, not really sure which way to go. Listen as your team of experts, Jennifer Glass, Daniel McCraine, and Patricia Reszetylo, go through what you need in your business to really make it stand out and benefit you. Because it's the bottom line that matters.
Hello and welcome to another episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters podcast, where we are dedicated to your success. First, if this is the first time listening, thank you so much for checking us out. And if you are returning, thank you again for your loyal listenership. As we get into our conversation today, we are going to be talking about revenue. Is revenue the number you want to be looking at, or are there other metrics that really matter more? One of the things, and I know Daniel, Patricia, the three of us have a way of putting it, that revenue feeds your ego, but profit feeds your family. There is a clear way that we can look at how we need to really be paying attention to what is it that we're looking at in our business when it comes to those numbers. And so, Daniel, Patricia, as I welcome the two of you in on the conversation, help me understand, and our listeners, what are we really supposed to be paying more attention to as it relates to the overall way that we look at how everything is in business with the metrics that we look at?
Yeah, the first thing that as business coaches and consultants that we start looking at is profitability. So are you actually making a profit in the business? And Jennifer, you like to talk about there's a huge difference between a company that brings in $1 million in revenue but only takes home 100,000 at the end of the year, or a business that only brings in $250,000 in revenue but still takes home $100,000 at the end of the year. And which is the better company in that situation? And in that case, we're going to say it's the $250,000 company. So profitability is one of the things that we want to take a look at. And as I'm saying this, as we were preparing for this topic today, I got to thinking, there's another part of this, though, that we want to be taking a look at. It's really not revenue that we want to focus on. Sure, we need revenue. It's really the relationship between revenue and profit that we want to take a look at. So that relationship. So what are the margins that you have in your business? What's the gross profit margin? What's your net profit margin? And those margin numbers are almost more important than what is the actual dollar amount that you're taking home for profit. And then we got to throw in this whole idea of, let's be tax efficient as well while we're taking a look at these numbers in business too. So trying to keep this short here. Don't want to go too far into the weeds. There's a lot we could talk about when we talk about tax efficiency of a business, but I'm going to let Patricia say a few words.
Well, and tax efficiency can actually be a large part of it. If you are paying, 30% or 40% in taxes, as a business, there are things that you can take off as business expenses that maybe you are and maybe you aren't. And if you aren't, then you should be. And we have to figure out how to make that so it works so you can. And then you're still, that makes your profits lower, but that also makes your end tax, your net tax bill a lot smaller. And there's some really fun things that can be done with that.
Absolutely. And like you said, there's so much then that we can be paying attention to in that regard. So if we look at other metrics, though, we spoke about revenue and profitability. Those are obviously important metrics, but is there anything else that we need to be paying attention to? I mean, we know margins, as an example, right, is important for us to be looking at. But how do our margins determine profitability as opposed to the revenue number? I mean, are there connections in that regard? Do we say, as long as I'm showing profit in the beginning and end of the month, no matter what my margins are, I'm okay? What do we need to be thinking about in that regard?
Wow, where do we begin answering those questions, Jeff?
I thought we'll throw it out there and just, let's see.
There was a lot there. Okay, so other things you need to be thinking about. So this whole idea of the relationship between revenue and profit really only addresses one of the financial reports that you should be looking at in your business on a regular basis. And that's your profit and loss statement. Depending on who you talk to, your bookkeeper or your accounting software, maybe it's the income statement. But that profit and loss statement shows that relationship between your revenue and your profit. There are two other reports that you want to make sure you take a look at on a regular basis as well. One is your balance sheet, the other is your cash flow. Because how many of you out there listening have ever looked at your profit and loss statement and it shows that you're making a great profit? It looks tremendous. But when you look at your bank account, you go, well, where's all the money? So the cash flow statement is really important to help you understand where the cash is. has it been billed but not collected yet? Has it been collected and paid out to your suppliers, and now you're waiting for the return or the reimbursement from your client? Or that cash flow statement is so important to help you understand why your bank account looks the way that it does. And then that brings us to the balance sheet. Well, the balance sheet tells us more about what you own. What are your assets? What do you owe? What's the relative health of your business? And that's as important as looking at the revenue and profit and the cash flow, because that balance sheet is going to tell you, can you afford to expand your business this month, to hire another person, to buy that piece of equipment? The balance sheet is going to tell you those kinds of things.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
So let me just go back for a second because we mentioned balance sheet. And I know we spoke about this in the past, but balance sheet, income statement, free cash flow, all of these different financial documents. We're talking in terms of something that, first of all, you can use QuickBooks, Xero, FreshBooks, things along those lines to certainly take a look at what you're doing in that regard, have it run a number from there. But do we just take what's there and say, all right, that's it? Or anything else that we need to think about in that regard? And I know it's an open-ended question on purpose.
Very. I would say if you don't know how to interpret a balance sheet or your cash flow statement, that's definitely a time to engage with at least a bookkeeper, if not a full accountant. Get a little bit of knowledge about how those things work. There's some pretty good YouTube videos too, actually, about how to interpret a balance sheet or a cash flow statement. So you might check that out too.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, in wrapping up our conversation in terms of the revenue versus other metrics, what other final statements would you like to make on the topic? Patricia, let's start with you, please.
Well, when we look at a business, our business or somebody else's, and we think, oh, we need to make more money, when we are probably meaning more profit. And sometimes that means more revenue. And sometimes it means you need to look at all the little pieces that are between revenue and profit and find where the leak is. And it's kind of fun to look at these pieces for myself. You can learn so much about a business just by looking at them. It's like, oh, I didn't know we were spending all of this here. What is all this going for? And then you can drill down into that, or, and it just gives you a means of working on the business that you maybe didn't have before.
Okay. Daniel, any final thoughts on your side?
Yeah, if you look only at revenue as the deciding factor about how well your business is performing, you are definitely missing the bigger picture. You are going to stumble all over yourself. You may even eventually run yourself out of business, because cash flow is the lifeblood of your business, and it's got to be flowing. So you need to have the bigger picture. You need to take a look at also your profit and loss statement, but know what those numbers mean. Take a look at your cash flow statement and have someone explain a balance sheet to you as well.
Okay. Thank you. So, as we wrap up our conversation, again, the important thing is, like was said, if you understand what you're looking at, it's really easy to get an understanding of where your business is. If you don't understand what you're looking at, definitely you want to be talking with somebody that can help you understand a little bit more in terms of what you really need to be knowing so that you can be in a better position to really be monitoring your business. The biggest thing that really hurts a lot of businesses, quite frankly, is not understanding their numbers. If you ever watch Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, as an example, one of the things that they always ask is, what are your numbers? Way too often, a lot of entrepreneurs do not really have a handle on their numbers. They make too many assumptions about their numbers. And you know the old saying about making an assumption. You don't want to be doing it. There's so much that can potentially be going wrong when you're not thinking strategically about those numbers. And so the more that you can really be looking at what you want to be looking at and what you need to be looking at, the better off your business will ultimately be. You will be much happier when you have a better understanding of your numbers as opposed to just looking at the bank account and saying, I've got this much in the bank, because it means nothing tomorrow because you've got that much money in the bank today. Tomorrow you can have much more or you can have much less. If you don't understand your numbers, there's no way to accurately predict what the number is going to be tomorrow. On that note, this has been another episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters. And until next time, here is to your success. Thanks so much for listening to another amazing episode of It's the Bottom Line That Matters podcast. We're all about helping the small business community grow and reaching as many people as we can. And the algorithms on the podcast programs love reviews. So if you loved what you just heard, consider leaving us a review. And even if you don't, I'm sure you already did, but consider sharing our episodes and our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Sharing is caring, and here's to your success. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.
It's the bottom line that matters.